Moving to the UK can be rather overwhelming, but moving your money doesn't have to be. With HSBC Global Money, you can convert, send, or spend multiple currencies around the world whenever you want with no HSBC fees. So you'll be right as rain, as they say in the UK. Search HSBC Global Money, HSBC UK, opening up a world of opportunity. Available to HSBC UK customers with an eligible current account and the mobile banking app. Non-HSBC fees may apply.
Nikah, talaq, counseling on matrimonial disputes, Islamic wills, Islamic law of inheritance, or an Islamic verdict on any other issue. The Muslim Sharia Council is at your service. We provide official certification, and our experienced and highly qualified imams are available to provide you with guidance when needed. MQI London is based at 292 to 296 Romford Road, Forest Gate. We are open from Monday to Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. or alternatively, call us now on 0208 257 1786.
Did you know? Product misuse is the leading cause of accidental fires in British homes, with numbers rising by over a third since 2009. Millions are making basic electric safety blunders without realizing the risks. With modern living, our homes are fitted with more electrical appliances than ever before. Stay safe, avoid overloading sockets, unplug when not in use, and never use damaged cords. Your safety matters. For further information, please visit us on www.electricalsafetyfirst.org.uk.
Have you just moved to the UK? You could open an account with a bank that understands your international needs. HSBC UK are here to lend a hand, as the Brits might say. Then you can get on with doing the important stuff like setting up bills, renting a property, getting a mobile, transferring money, and coming to terms with the weather. Start today by searching HSBC Bank Account, HSBC UK, opening up a world of opportunity. You have to be 18 or older and eligibility criteria apply. At HSBC UK, you are backed by the current account switch guarantee.
ReviveFM
94.0 on the radio,
on your mobile,
and online.
Hello, good morning. You are locked into ReviveFM 94.0 on the Power Hour with your host today, myself, Louise Power. This show is about community matters, diversity and inclusion, a platform for women, leadership, entrepreneurship and inspirational stories. And today I am very, very, very privileged to have my special guest all the way from Abuja in Nigeria, Mr. Gbadema Soloman. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. I think I need you to unmute for me.
Thank you so much, Louise Power. It's actually my pleasure having you today, and I am so excited to be here once again. My name remains Gbadema Soloman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gbadema. Thank you. It's an honor for you to be here. I know we're on similar time zones, so it's 12 noon here in the UK, and it's pretty hot. I know that it's hot in over there in Nigeria. What time zone are you on over there now?
Yeah, I'm just 3 minutes past 12 noon, right in Nigeria, the federal capital city.
So we are on the same time zone, and it is, like I said, it's great for you to be here. You and I have been connected on LinkedIn for a while. I know you're doing some awesome work in terms of diversity and inclusion, sustainability, and just really the good work, making the world a better place. And having spoken to you, we both thought that it would be brilliant for you to come on the show, speak about what you're doing, and really give us some golden nuggets. You know, today this is all about you. This is your subject. This is your expertise. So, you know, I'll be chipping in and asking some follow-up questions. But really, today is about you and really having the platform to highlight some of those things that are happening within your specialism and over there in Nigeria. And yeah, I have a couple of things that I'd like to ask. I also wanted to tell you that today, where my family come from, Jamaica, it is Jamaican Emancipation Day today. So I'll just tell you, because I was going to wear my Jamaican flag colours today. Now the reason being is because on this day, slavery was finally abolished throughout the British Empire by the Slavery Abolition Act 1833, which came into effect on August the 1st, 1835. So my little island in Jamaica, where my family are from, today was the day that there was an abolition of slavery. So there was an emancipation, they were set free. But the reason I say this is to say that much of the people that were put into slavery, you know, that very difficulty of slavery, they came from Nigeria to Jamaica, which is also very interesting. So I just thought I'd tell you that today, little golden nugget about how I ended up with that Nigerian DNA.
Oh, thank you so much, Louise Power. With due respect, I would like to say congratulations because you know you shared not just being my day is also your day because today is Jamaica Day, and I would like to say congratulations to you and congratulations to the entire Jamaicans. I would like to also say congratulations to Nigeria too because of the little share of your ancestral home that is actually linked to Nigeria. It's actually a very special, feeling for me, and I can't wait to hit the ground running. I would like to appreciate you and your team for giving me this wonderful privilege for me to actually be, on the broader stage, for me to air out, exactly what I've been doing, and hopefully, I am looking forward that many people, will tune in, and those actually watching or those listening, after this event, will be glad that actually justice has been done. We are actually on the right path together. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you ever so much. And I'm going to hand the mic right back over to you just to tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you are climate change and sustainability analyst, climate action actually, and sustainability analyst. And I would like to hand it right back over to you just by saying a little bit about yourself. I know you're from at the moment in Abuja, but tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up in Nigeria and, what inspired you to enter into the career that you're doing now.
Wow. Thank you so much once again. Thank you kindly because I'm actually thrilled to be here. And to introduce myself properly, just like you earlier mentioned, my name is Gbadema Soloman Ofure. I'm actually climate action and sustainability analyst, right? Just like you said, I actually came from a very minority group in Nigeria. Talking about Benue State, I am actually from the Tiv of Benue State, and I'm happy to be out there trying to do what I like doing best. I came from, the family of seven. Today, I happen to be the first boy in the family and the first graduate from my family. And as God will have it, I've been able to, thank you so much. I've been able to, reach out and give back to my society right from when I had that little breakthrough, and I am still looking forward to doing that. In the first place, I am an entrepreneur as well. I'm actually, I can proudly say I'm jack of all trades, and I've been doing very wonderfully well. When I saw actually the consequences of the dangers of climate change, climate action, and sustainability development, I tried to draw it very close to my community in Bakuwa. That's the town where I came from, my kindred home. And I am actually able to build a foundation called Women for Equality, Inclusion, and Sustainability. And I happen to be, the director, the managing director of that organization, and the founding, president of that organization. My CEO, a person of the St. James, is actually in Canada, Toronto. He actually worked with the Reebok and Nike for a combined 30 years and retired, and became my CEO. I mean, the CEO to Women for Equality, Inclusion, and Sustainability um, um, Foundation. And together, we have actually been driving home, policies that can actually help women, especially, closer, get closer to sustainability, also involved in climate actions. And so far, we've been able to do that for 4 years. And I could remember when the organization came on, it was during the COVID-19 era, and we are able to, champion this cause. Now, I will give you a little bit of what Women for Equality, Inclusion, and Sustainability Foundation is all about. They are actually about, giving a helping hand to the minority communities, in Nigeria and Africa, where we have actually extended, our branches now already in Kenya, East Africa, where we also have a country director, a person of Dr. Helen Kilisu, working with the organization. Our sole aim is actually about sustainability, economic sustainability development, and talking about gender equalities. Let me just cut in here briefly. In this foundation, we have been able to achieve a lot from the past 3 years, where we actually have a sustainable farm, particularly called, the Fanaku village. Fanaku village is actually a plantation farm that's actually owned by this foundation, I Frontier Desert Development, in order to engage women, young girls, and other youths in the community to actually actively participate in climate actions, and also, foster policies that can actually contribute to sustainability development. So hereafter, I did not just stop there. My work was actually recognized by some people in the community, and thereafter I was actually appointed by Youth Up Global. Youth Up Global is actually an organization. It's a youth organization in Africa, actually, that embrace sustainability development, good environmental policies, and then in entrepreneurship development as their own advocacy team lead coordinator. And I have been with them for the past 7 months. And not stopping there, UTIDIA Apprentice Institute is actually uh, under Utop Global, where I was recently appointed as Dean Faculty for Green Energy and Sustainability Development.
Oh,
Um,
congratulations.
yeah. So I'm also happy to be uh, a committee member
Mhm.
for Center for Development, and Research under the same institute, whereby Dr. Fecht is actually the pioneering president, and in the Youth of Global in Utidia Apprentice Institute, we are actually an institute saddled with the responsibility to not just deal with practical skills, deal with it, not just to deal with the theory aspect, of teaching, but also the practical aspect,
Of what it
making,
is.
bringing the youth closer and making them to have hands-on tools that can gain employment. If you look at it, the youth in Nigeria, it has been unnoticed, and I believe you are also much aware of that, whereby the issue of unemployment has been a major issue that we've been dealing with. And this unemployment has actually degenerated into what we call, the setback and insecurities, and then the food crisis and food insecurity in Nigeria. We are actually doing this, and so far so good. We are actually trying to bring these youths together, not just in Nigeria, but Africa and Asia, where we can actually train them to have hands-on tools that actually can make them gainfully employed.
Yeah,
And
you
under
know,
my
it's interesting actually, Gbadema. It's interesting actually because I follow a charity online, and one of the things that the charity speaks about, and after the break, I'll give you the name of it. I'll look it up. Is food insecurity, and some of the barriers and difficulties people are facing in Nigeria, most especially when it comes to housing, where some people are living amongst water. You know, having to live in places where they are submerged in to a 3 foot of water, um, and landfills of rubbish where they are living, um, and it's very difficult to watch and to know that there are people that are having to live in that way. And I wanted to ask you, what are some of these um, barriers? What are some of these difficulties that you see in the community that you come from? What are sort of like the everyday things that people are struggling with, like those everyday stories? Those things that are really sort of like happening every day on the ground. Um, what are some of those things? If you wouldn't mind sharing with us.
Yeah, thank you kindly. I would like to say this: the challenges are actually many,
Mm,
but the prominent one is that the negligence of community for inclusiveness of women into policy making, the societal development, decision making. It has been something that is actually of headache to us. I was actually raised, let me just chip in here, that I was raised by, a widow. My mom, my dad, was late, and my mom could do everything to make to see me, doing very well. And for me to, to be here, to be up there, giving back to the society, it means that I recognize the strength of women in societal development. I look at it that the negligence of government, in court from the top down to the, rural communities has actually been something of concern to me. And this is why, even in the area of climate actions and sustainability development, where we are actually trying to bring in women in, we also face that because women are totally, denied of that right. I also sense, over the years that the gay child has completely, relegated, has not actually been considered at all, even given the opportunity for them to go to school. Why? Because they feel that, only a male child matters. When I came in and I went out and I came back, I tried to engage my community as a whole, And as far as the experience is concerned, to tell them, look, a gay child is actually as well important. And sometimes we have debates where I also argue that the gay child is sometimes, in fact, is even more important than the normal African or the normal Nigerian, would think. This is because girls and women, women and girls have a role to play in decision making and policy making. And this has actually remained one of the major challenges. And what we are actually trying to do is trying as much as possible to educate, our communities through advocacy that what men are doing, women can even do much better. If I answer your question.
Thank you, Gbadema. Yeah, it's something that is on my agenda. It's most certainly something that's important to me as part of diversity and inclusion, that women have a say, and women are involved in policies and procedures, most especially where they will have first-hand primary experience with some of the difficulties being faced by the children in the home, by being faced by the community, with products they need to cook, products that need to be grown, the way in which children need to be educated, the communication between home and school, and the list goes on. And I saw some stats that there was 141,000 people that migrated to the UK actually between 2022 and 2023 to look for work. And part of that insecurity, I'm presuming, is down to the fact that people that get educated in university in Nigeria, college or university educated, find it difficult to find a sustainable income or opportunities that match the qualifications with which they have just gained. So they then start to look to go elsewhere and come to the UK to live and work. But we're just going to go into a short commercial break for just a few minutes. So we'll come back to that subject and lean right back into what it is that we just said. So please do not touch that dial. You are locked into ReviveFM 94.0. And we'll be right back after the commercial break. Okay. So see you soon, Gbadema. See you shortly.
This is
ReviveFM
94.0 with the latest news from around the world. This is ReviveFM 94.0.
Reviving communities.
The views expressed on this program do not necessarily represent those of ReviveFM or its management.
Allahu Allah, Allahu Allah, Allahu Allah, La ilaha illallah. Ashab-e Muhammad, haq ke wali, Abu Bakr Umar, Usman Ali, याराने नबी में सबसे जली अबू बकर उमर उस्मान अली अस्हाबे मोहम्मद हक के वली अबू बकर उमर उस्मान अली याराने नबी में सबसे जली अबू बकर उमर उस्मान अली They are the closest companions, most high in rank is their station. Among the gems they were chosen, the first to build our foundation. Ashab-e Muhammad, haq ke wali, बकर उमर उस्मान अली यारान नबी में सबसे जली बकर उमर उस्मान अली अल्लाह 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 ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह These four are prophet didn't trust, through whom the truth would reach to us. The pillars of his ways and his love, the beacons of his light for us. Ashab-e Muhammad, Haqq ke wali, Abu Bakr o Umar, Usman o Ali, Yaran-e Nabi mein sabse jali, Abu Bakr o Umar, Usman o Ali. The stars who guide us through the night, their path it leads to paradise. They are the roots, we are the leaves, we are raindrops, they are the seas. Ashab-e Muhammad, Haqq ke wali, Abu Bakr o Umar, Usman o Ali, Yaran-e Nabi mein sabse jali, Abu Bakr o Umar, Usman o Ali. And when the prophet left this
Hello, good afternoon. You are locked into Revive FM 94.0 on the Power Hour with myself, Louise Power. This show is about community matters, diversity and inclusion, a platform for women, leadership, entrepreneurship and inspirational stories. We just went into a short break and I have in the studio today Gbadema Soloman. He is a very special guest of mine coming in externally from Abuja in Nigeria. Abuja is the capital city, and we are very, very privileged to have him here today. He is a climate actions and sustainability analyst. And just before the break, we was talking about some very golden nuggets, and Gbadema was explaining to me about his charity, which focuses on inclusion for women around policies and procedures, and speaking to us about the implications really of climate action and what that means and the difficulties and the barriers that people in Nigeria are facing and the reasons why people are out of work and the reasons why communities are having difficulties in terms of food insecurities and being able to grow their own produce and what exactly that means. And I was explaining to Gbadema about my own experiences of understanding and research about what's happening in Nigeria and just how much it is that, how important it is that the work that it is that he's doing. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Louise Power. Actually, glad, just like we were saying before the short break, we were actually, driving somewhere to something actually very important. I would like to quickly take you back where I did a certificate program with the University of Cape Town, talking about, climate mitigation in developing countries. And from there, I have learned that climate change itself is the cause of all evil. You know what I mean? The cause of
Yeah.
all evil. And of course, if we actually is not checked, climate actions, climate change is not checked, it will result to a lot of vices, which I earlier mentioned to you. I mentioned insecurity, I mentioned hunger, I mentioned social, I mean exclusion, I mentioned vices, a lot of things accompany with that. And now, let me just, for people listening to us, a lot of people are actually novice, and they may not actually understand exactly what we're talking about. What is climate change and its causes? I would like to say that historically, climate change refers to long-term shift in temperatures and weather patterns. A lot of people actually use this, interchangeably, or define this interchangeably, talking about global warming. But global warming is a little bit different, and we as going forward we'll look at the global warming, where it's talking about the heating of the atmosphere, surfaces in a very short term. That's what it means. Now let's look at it, how human has actually influenced the causes of climate change. It is primarily due to actually burning of fossil fuel, but like coal and gas. And in
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria, we are actually familiar with this because a lot of actions have actually contributed to this. So generating electricity and heat by burning fossil fuel causes a long-term change in global emission. You all know that. I believe you also know that. But in Africa, we are talking about what is actually very common is actually the the manufacturing industry, especially in the oil and gas industry in the Niger Delta. It has actually increased the release of emission into the atmosphere, thereby causing climate change. Then you look at it that the cutting down of forests in Nigeria has also been one of the major contributors, including transportation and producing what they call food. And now you will agree with me that women have a lot role to play. The moment you neglect women into all the action, the policy, and the decision making body, you are actually denying the inclusiveness of climate change action and its successful development. Talk about social, talk about economic, and talk about actually the development we need to see. Now, I made something, I spoke earlier about the gender inequalities and the negligence of our leaders. And when I mention the leaders, I'm talking about from head to top, talking about from the leadership of this country down to top, whereby women are actually at practically, denied of this opportunity. Now, what is the fate of a girl child? What is the fate of a girl child in getting involved? Women actually have gone to school. Few of them that have the opportunity have gone to school, and they are itching to be involved. How can they be involved when the chance is not given? It therefore means that the government itself has to check and track their steps in involving women in decision making. Now, somebody will actually say something, and I quote the 8-day network, that refers to the contribution of women being the second largest if the world actually realize what the importance women actually play in bringing climate change, to a halt. Let me bring an instance to you. Deforestation in Africa and in Nigeria. Let me talk about Nigeria first.
Okay.
Is one of the second highest factor contributing to climate change, and the women are there. Let me tell you, I will bring my community where I come from in the first place. There's nothing like, you don't find gas cooker there, you don't find fuels there, you don't find electricity, but you find forest, typical forest. And how did women actually, generate their own gas, their natural gas to cook, to make foods and something? They, clear this forest. When they clear this forest, it's either they are clearing it because of farming. In my community, women are actually at the sole heart of farming. When they clear this forest, what now happens? The farmlands actually become bare. Now, it is actually two sides, and I am coming. Listen where I am traveling to. The direct release of greenhouse gases hit the floor directly. It means that the forest is no longer there to actually trap these rays that actually been released from the sun. What now happens? The ground suffers most. It hits the environment. It therefore means that the surfaces are heating. And when they are heating, the surface, the planet actually get warm. It now increase the temperatures within, and you have issues like flooding, issues like heat waves, and so on and so forth. I believe very well that I won't actually be going into detail, but you know exactly where I'm driving to. I know that wildfire.
100%. Yeah,
Yes,
and whilst you were speaking, the other thing that I was thinking about was whilst the deforestation is happening there in Nigeria, that there would have been communities that are still living. Sorry, excuse me. There'll still be communities that are still living in a very rural way, relying on those resources, living amongst the forest because they haven't developed in a Western way, which is fine because they're still living in an original sense. But then people are coming into those communities, chopping the trees, um, killing the livestock, and also destroying the way they live.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. Just like you are actually right here, because lack of awareness, lack of education, and lack of actually awareness creation, talking about the consequences of the effect of climate change has led to this. In communities like that, you see that sometimes you just discover wildfire. This fire actually escalates, burn all the green vegetation, and leave the land bare, whereby during rainy season the necessary ingredients that actually washed away completely. Now let me address the challenge, the advantage of this community women living in the rural way and not actually living in the western way, as you just mentioned. But I know that for sure, for each and every member of the society believe that her own government should actually be there to provide the necessary prerequisite for them to strive, for them to live. It therefore means that communities whereby infrastructure, development like roads, schools, hospitals are not actually are derived from. These people actually simply did not actually understand what is happening in the Western world. It therefore means that the campaign needs to be taken to them. This is why climate action is actually what we call the social evil. Social evil that's actually denying of social and basic economic development, including entrepreneur development. And for us to, achieve this, for us to actually achieve sustainable entrepreneurship development, we must take our campaign for advantages of recognizing the dangers ahead of climate change, before attending sustainability. And I just mentioned to you that women are actually agents of social and fast economic development, because wherever women go, everywhere is actually clear. I root for women. I believe in women because I have seen whereby I work. When a woman gets to that place, you see life in there because they are actually very special instrument that actually influence development. And therefore, I am saying that for climate change and environmental justice to be achieved, women must be involved. That is why inclusive climate action and sustainability development action in Africa should be gearing towards promoting the the women gender mainstreaming in climate policies and renegotiation, so that we can actually achieve a better outcome.
Thank you so much for your advocacy for women and girls. I think it's important to have male allies that are not just taking up the privilege of being in a position to lead all the time, and that there are significantly lots and lots of places around the world where a woman might not be sitting here, right, where I am, in a radio station with her own show, because she just wouldn't be welcomed into that space. It would be considered the rhetoric of a male-dominated industry. And we still have lots and lots of places like that around the world. And there's still lots of change that needs to happen. We watch television or social media and we think everywhere is like this, but it isn't, right? So, you know, thank you for the good work. And, you know, I'm thinking about so many things off the back of what you said. You know, inclusive climate action about sustainable development in Africa, climate change and environmental injustice, the consequences of flooding on businesses and health, and just what it means for the everyday people that are going by, doing their business, and the wealth gap. You know, you can have a very wealthy family in Nigeria that has lots of money, a great house, 2 or 3 cars, children living in the UK, the US, Canada, and paying up to £15,000 and upwards, right, for education for one child. And then the extremities of somebody else living in poverty, deprivation, deforestation, and it's like 2 completely different worlds. Although I haven't been to Nigeria, I have a very good sense of what it must be like. Having been to the Caribbean, come from the Caribbean, but also having read a lot about what, you know, some of the disadvantages there are for the people in Nigeria. What are some of the things, please share with us, what are some of the things that, 2 or 3 things, immediate things that need to happen? So if you're around the table with government officials in Nigeria right now, in Nigeria, and perhaps people that are outside of Nigeria that have influence, what are some of the things that you'd be saying to them that need to happen immediately as a matter of priority?
Thank you very much. Thank you kindly, Louise Power. I'm actually, you know, sober, if I may use that word, anytime we actually talk about our great country, Nigeria. Research and a lot of people actually that are aware of Nigeria. Nigeria is actually not just the biggest, you know, the motherland, but also one of the most important, you know, African countries. You know, a very important country that other African nations actually believe in. It is heartwarming anytime you see a lot of news happening around the world talking about Nigeria, portraying Nigeria, you know, in a negative way. I can agree with you that yes, there are so many positive ways that Nigeria actually been portrayed in too. For me to actually give you a shade of what you just mentioned, I would like to tell you that we are blessed in this country. In fact, if there's any country, God has blessed us. And this is why we are blessed with the physical, the mineral resources, and the commonwealth nations wish they could have had. But just one thing, the leadership. This has been the pain. I remember I heard you, I wanted to comment on it earlier, but now you actually giving me this opportunity, so I will sum up. The number of people actually trooping to United Kingdom today, it's not just because of anything. A lot of people wouldn't want to leave Nigeria. Some of them are leaving Nigeria simply because of the bad leadership, bad policies that we face today. We have what they call Japa syndrome. This is where the young men actually call it in Nigeria. We call it Japa.
Japa syndrome.
Yes, the Japa syndrome is actually a layman term or a slang that's used among the youth, saying that we are actually moving, we are evacuating. Now, you will agree with me that the youth population should actually be the strongest hope for every nation. But if you find ages of 19, 20 moving to United Kingdom, not just United Kingdom, moving to so many nations for the sake of greener pastures, they never return. What now happens? It weakens the strength of that nation. Sometimes I shed for Nigeria, my country. I love Nigeria, and this is why I am still here. And I have so many opportunities whereby I would have also make efforts to also, move away from Nigeria. But if we continue this way, who are the people to develop our country? Our beloved country is actually crying for help because we are actually in dungeon of leadership. You've seen so many African countries whereby leadership has actually been the main problem of that country. Now, what are we saying? We are talking about development, right? We are talking about sustainable development. We are talking about economic development. We are talking about entrepreneurship development. For the government growth, for the government's prosperity, for the national prosperity, and for the country's prosperity, we need these people. I would want to give you an example whereby it's very challenging. Today, I would tell you publicly that when you go to our hospitals, all the young men that have graduated in our universities has left the country.
Oh dear.
Now, the sector, and this is where I talk about the inclusive, and then I talk about the challenging factor of flooding, climate change, and then the health. And where I will come to that, and I will take a note of that. They are actually drifting.
Sorry, Gbadema. We have one more break, and then we have the final half of the show. So I'd like you to hang on to that if that's okay. So the food insecurity, and also you're speaking about the flooding and the climate change. If you can just hold on to those golden nuggets, because I need them in the last and final part of the show. So we're just going to go into a very, very short commercial break, and then we'll be back for the last part. So I'll be looking forward to hearing those very important points. Please do not touch that dial. You are locked into the Power Hour on Revive FM.
يراني نقولها قدام السامعين واللي متابعين الفرد وصلنا. يراني لنحاشم الله العالي يسلم ذاتي النار الحمراء. الله يا الله رسول الله الله يا الله حبيب الله الله يا الله رسول الله الله يا الله حبيب الله. صلوا على النبي اصحابوا عشرة محمد النور زين البشرى. صلوا على النبي اصحابوا عشرة محمد النور زين البشرى. One man through his lessons taught the ummah about reaching the heavens. Oh Jannah, Jannah, I hope to see you Muhammad. Sallallahu ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallallahu ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Every night and every morning, pray to God, do everything for him. Down from the best of believers, Muhammad, peace be upon him, the leader. It was written that I feel the light inside of me. I am driven by the teachings that has guided me. صلوا على النبي صحابه عشرة.
Hello and welcome back to the show. You are locked into the Power Hour on Revive FM. Welcome back, Gbadema. Thank you ever so much for joining us today. Gbadema is a climate actions and sustainability analyst, and he's been with me since 12 noon, talking to me about all things climate action and sustainability in Nigeria. He's calling in today from Abuja, and he's been sharing with us some very, very golden nuggets all about his charity and what they're doing for women in terms of policy, inclusion, and procedures, and trying to bridge the gap really between the disparity between genders over there in Nigeria, and just really the difficulties that they're facing with food insecurity and wildfires and flooding and everything else. So for the last 10 minutes of the show, Gbadema, I'd really like to pass the mic back to you just to give us so you was going to give us some insight. Really, I asked you the question. The question was, if you had the government officials around the table right now, and you needed them to do something as a priority, what would that be? And you were sharing with us some of the difficulties really with the democracy and the way in which leaders are not taking action, and how that makes it very, very difficult for there to be sustainable change. So back over to yourself.
Thank you kindly. I'm happy to have you back, and I will actually be building on where we stopped, talking about the leadership and bad policies. When corruption actually supersedes the important decision making in the seat of the government, there are a lot of challenges, and the bone of contention. I say that this actually poor decision and policies has given birth to what we have today. Talking about the Japa syndrome I mentioned, talking about the food insecurity, talking about the general insecurity in the country, and it will interest you to understand that we are actually blessed with both mineral resources, both physical resources, but everything, the land, everything. God has given us everything, but our leaders has refused. They intentionally refused to look into the challenges of Nigeria today. It is very sad that today we are confronted with issues, not just the issues of insecurity. Not just the issue of climate change, but the issue of insecurity and food security. Today, just $100, as we may call it, is begging for a bag of rice. It has never in the history of Nigeria been so bad.
Oh my goodness.
We have deliberately have leaders that turn deaf ears on the cry of the country. I know that at the end of the day, this interview will be there for a lot of them to watch. But my message is very clear. When you get the foundation wrong, you are bound to get a lot of things very wrong. People are actually running away. People actually prefer to actually steal the money that's supposed to be used for the masses to go and develop other countries, leaving their own countries where they are born. But I believe in this African saying, there's no place like home. Why didn't you actually channel this money to actually provide job in your immediate community, so that at the end of the day, you will actually make use of the strength of this youth, to develop, add to the economy. Our economy today has continued to be weakened every day. And this is why you see that our debts have actually been piling up, been accumulating. What are we borrowing when we have everything in this country? Why have we continued to borrow over and over? Every regime comes in and they borrow and they borrow. What are we doing with these things? Now, these major sums of money that we are actually piling, what are we doing with it? Are we actually making policies that can actually accommodate this use and stop them actually from moving away? If you look at the natural disasters, for instance, natural disasters historically has been part of the world. Talking about hurricanes, talking about landslides, talking about wildfire, talking about flooding, talking about how do you call it, tornadoes and
Mhm.
everything, volcanoes, earthquakes and everything. But you will agree with me that such Nigeria is actually one of the continents that does not experience these things. It means that God has given has blessed us with in every nook and cranny for us to actually make this country a very comfortable place for even others to be attracted to here. When you come to Nigeria, and I bet you, I can take you one or three places whereby you've seen very good tourist attraction, whereby the government can actually develop and employ this teeming youth. If you come to Nigeria, I beg your answers, whereby every year graduates are being graduated into the street, into the job markets, and no jobs. What do you want them to do? Remember, the idle mind is actually a devil's workshop. These graduates are actually being on the street without employment. Definitely, will look for how they will survive. It was yesterday. My mom, I could remember, told me, I know I'm sending you to school. I'm suffering. But when you graduate, my suffering will be over. When you listen to this word by a widow, a woman that could not afford soap to bath, and then today you become a graduate and you don't have a job, you cannot afford, a bag of rice for your mom. You cannot afford a bag of rice for your family. You cannot afford to give your mother a common pocket money. And again, you now they're supposed to actually your mother's supposed to your mom's supposed to depend on you. You are depending on your mom to feed. Such is the country where the youth, the teeming youth, have been coming in. You see intelligent youth, it is not as if they cannot do anything. It is why when they go up there, you see them doing very well. Now, what it is for you to know, if the leadership is actually good, the leadership is actually strategic in their policies, things will be better, because this teeming youth that you could see in United Kingdom will not be running to United Kingdom. They would prefer to stay in Nigeria and work and have sales. But today, when you go to our hospitals, the young medical doctors have been graduated. They have run out of Nigeria because they are not paid.
Ah, yeah.
When they
So
are
they're
being
working.
paid,
They're not getting a salary, right?
yes, sorry. Yes, sorry. Before I forget just one
Yeah.
important thing. The policies, the bad policies, will influence the change in Nigeria. Talking about insecurity, talking about food, insecurity, talking about even the flooding, it will get worse. And I want to give you that is one instance I gave you about the Japa syndrome. Insecurity. Insecurity today is increased simply because the able youth look at it that kidnapping could actually put money on their table. They will be able to feed. They will be able to go out for challenge. Because why is it an increase? It is an increase because the government has refused to listen to the complaint of these youth. Talking about food insecurity, how can we have vast lands in Nigeria and then we'll be begging for food? We are still importing food. We import everything, including food. Now, very soon, we will be begging to import water. I went to my community, and the whole of the community does not have any source of water. And this is where I was talking about the social amenity, the basic amenities. So, government negligence to this community, and I bet you they continue to live in that cool way. We never develop them. Why? Because the rural dwellers supposed to actually be the one that will be feeding, the urban cities population. Why? Because they involve in actually rural activities that actually bring out the output. Today, I went to my village and I discovered that people from the urban city has gone to buy food on harvest.
Oh
What does
wow.
that mean? That is telling you that the hunger is actually alarming. It is evident in the protest that you have heard, I know very well that you are from UK, you might have read that there's protest today as you're holding me. People are up there, wherever, protesting. What are they protesting? They are talking about bad governance. Today,
Oh yeah, most
today,
definitely. I mean,
yes,
even
today,
the fact that you don't even they're not having, basic amenities like clean water and and
and then
and, and
yes, and they feel that every time they said that the youths are the future. Where is the future? When our future is actually being stolen by political leaders who are 80 years, 70 years. And you say somebody that is coming from 20, 23 years is looking for job. There's no employment. And then you open portal and you said, hey, there are jobs, let me employ jobs. And then at the end of the day, the elites, the leaders still loot these jobs and give them to their families and their relations. Why the graduates they continue to roam on the street? What are they
yeah.
roaming for? What are they looking for? They are looking for better life, and
It
this is
sounds
why
like,
the
sorry,
confusion
Grandma.
cannot be avoided.
It sounds like there needs to be some accountability from the top down. There needs to be some accountability and commitment in policy, which means that we say it and then we have to actually do it. And if we don't do it, then there's an accountability and there's a consequence to that, because it's absurd to know that people are having to leave the place, their birthright, where they should be able to thrive and live and enjoy where they're from, especially like you said,
Correct.
we've had all of those natural resources. I'm just conscious of the fact we're coming up towards 1 o'clock when the show is going to close. So I just wanted to end the show actually with something a bit light-hearted by asking you this question that I ask all of my guests. Is if you had to speak to your younger self, 16-year-old Gbadema, and you had to advise him of something, anything, because the next time you come on the show, we'll speak more about you and your history and your family history and everything else. But the 16-year-old you, what advice would you give him? The 16-year-old Gbadema now.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I will recap. Instead of recapping, before I answer that question, please
Yes.
permit me, because we are actually running out of time, for me to touch something very important. The
Yes. Yes. Go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
Yes, the consequences of flooding, the consequences of climate negligence, the consequences of environmental injustice on our climate could lead to more insecurity, more instability, more, food insecurity. And I will tell you why. I will hint you, and the more consequences on our health. Remember, climate action, women and children are more vulnerable to climate change. Why are they more vulnerable? When the consequences are there, when there's flooding, when there's no food, women actually bear the more consequences in Nigeria. The damage that is actually caused has actually left them more stranded. I will give you an instant. A woman will not sleep when a child is hungry, cry. What do we need to do? We therefore need to encourage good policies so that the effects of climate change will not have various consequences. If our forests are being cleared today, not just for firewood, but to sell, to make some money, to earn a living, it means that the government has actually neglected this woman. Women, they are not actually doing enough to capture for the rural community as well. The education is not actually reaching them. Everything, the mineral resources that they have, they are actually interested in harnessing them. Even for you to harness the mineral resources, government will actually come in simply because they don't have the inputs. Now, if fertilizers are given to support and higher yields are also given to farmers in rural communities, they can actually, contain what they call food insecurity. They can grow their crop, they can eat, as possibly they can also sell. this can actually generate revenue even to the government of the day. Now, our head challenges is that anytime there's flooding, which I happen to be part of it, and that is where I'm driving to, because I came to a minority group, and while I was in Makurdi is actually the state capital of Benue, I had a case of flooding whereby, our homes was actually being sacked. Our property damaged, the food was soaked, and this water actually stayed up to 4 days without evacuation. Now, the state government not actually do enough to create awareness to people, to tell them the danger of erecting buildings on waterways, dumping of refuse on waterways, thereby blocking the water access to actually run down to the right channel where it's supposed to be. The result will actually be flooding. Education is needed. Now, coming back to your question, and thank you very much for asking me this question, because it has actually been very important and part of me. If I am 16-year-old Gbadema, I will still give other youths, not just 16 or above me, because I am privileged to be heard, that they should do everything to embrace good policies that can actually promote good governance. They should embrace inclusiveness, because you can see that gender inequality is increasingly, recognized as an impediment to achieving resilient and sustainable economic and social development. If they embrace other genders, both men and women can come together to make this country a great nation, irrespective of the fact that our political leaders that we have chosen for them to represent us has neglected to listen to this. We are trusting God that tomorrow God will actually recognize us and God will come back. And when God comes back to us, it will maybe there will be an opportunity whereby women will be inclusive, women will be included in decision making and public analysis to make things happen. And in case of our own nation, I would like them to look at it that equal participation by women and men as decision makers and shaping the sustainable development in Nigeria is actually very important. And when they have the opportunity, they should do well to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gbadema. I'm so sorry we've run out of time, but thank you so much for sharing with us as well that the 16-year-old you would be talking about inclusive poverty, good governance, the economical and social difference, and just how important it is for young people to be involved in that policy, but most especially women and girls on the ground that are having those first-hand experiences of children that are hungry, with children that cannot be educated, and families that cannot go to work. Thank you so much for joining me today. You have been locked into the Power Hour on ReviveFM 94.0. Please do share this, Gbadema, with your community and the people in Nigeria and those far and wide. It's been such a pleasure to have you on the show today, and we look forward to touching base with you again and doing another show with you another time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. You are locked into ReviveFM 94.0 on the Power Hour.